Parshas Metzora speaks about the individual who is afflicted. And this individual has an affliction in a number of possible ways. Either the individual has an affliction on their skin, or the individual has an affliction on their clothing, or the individual has an affliction on their home. We see in next week's Parsha. Those three ways this individual is afflicted. And this individual shows the affliction to the Kohen, and the Kohen decides what should be, whether the individual indeed has tzaras, and therefore the individual is to be sequestered in order to go through a purification process. That's pretty much what the Parsha speaks about, and the purification process in detail is spoken about in Parshas Metzora. Our rabbis speak of the concept of smichos parshios, which means the connections, the connection of the two parshios that come one after each other. And the first parsha, referring to last week's parsha, Parsha Shmini, which at the end of the parsha speaks about animals which are considered to be kosher and animals which are considered to be non-kosher. Animals which we are permitted to consume and animals which we are prohibited to consume. And in our parsha, we speak about this Metzora, this person who has this affliction. What is the smichos parshios, the connection between the two? So Rabbi Yisrael Misalanter explains that based on how our rabbis teach us, that the affliction that the individual, that the Metzora has, comes from a lashon hara, from speaking evil, from speaking negatively about other people, either in front of other people, behind someone's back, speaking in a negative way about someone else, even if all the information that a person says is indeed true. Still considered to be negative talk, and from that, a person ends up becoming Metzora. That's where the concept comes from. In the parsha of last week, when we spoke about the kashrus of animals, says Rabbi Yisrael Misalanter, we spoke about what we are permitted to ingest, what we are permitted to take into our mouth, and what we are permitted to, what we're not permitted to take into our mouths. In our parsha, we speak about what we are permitted to take out of our mouths and what we are prohibited to take out of our mouths, meaning the consequences of speaking lashon hara. If one speaks lashon hara, then eventually they might possibly get tzaras, get this affliction. So says Rabbi Yisrael Misalanter, the smichos parshios, the connection between the two parshios is so obvious. He says that as human beings, we are often so concerned about what goes into our bodies, we have to make sure that we keep the highest standard of kashrus, the highest kosher standard possible, while when it comes to what comes out of our mouths, we are less concerned than we are about what goes into our mouths as far as ingesting food. And he says that we have to calculate what comes out of our mouths just as we calculate what goes into our mouths. Just like so many of us, all of us hopefully, would never ingest anything which was not kosher, which was not good for us on a physical level or on a spiritual level, so too we should make sure that nothing ever comes out of our mouths which are not good for us and not good for other people on a spiritual or on an emotional level. And Rabbi Yisrael Misalanter says that while we're permitted to slaughter an animal in order to consume it, we are not permitted to slaughter a human being. And sometimes the words that come out of our mouths have the ability to do such damage on a person. It's as if we can be slaughtering a person, either destroying a person's reputation, making a person feel as if they are not welcome in a group or in a society, or saying something personal that really hurts the core of how an individual feels, either personally to themselves or within a group of people. We have to be so careful. The story is told about the Chafetz Chaim that he was once sitting with a businessman who showed him and said to him, every word that I write in a letter can cost me dollars upon dollars upon dollars. If a word is taken one way or taken the other way, and I'm in the middle of a deal, then that word could end up costing me in my pocket. And so the Chafetz Chaim commented and said, it's so interesting when we think in terms of business about how much each word could make a difference, but when we think about the damage done to other people, we're not as concerned with literally the jewels that are in our mouths, with the opportunity to allow a word that comes out of our mouth to be positive and to help a person or to negate, to hurt a person. The consequences of our actions and the need for our words and that which comes out of our mouth to be as calculated as that which goes into our mouths. May we be zochet to heed this message and indeed ensure that we have a positive outlook on life and conquer this very great challenge in our world of lashon hara. Thank you and good Shabbos.